Nou, daar komt een beetje meer ernstig. Een nieuwe boek, The Lie of 1652. A decolonised history of land, dat ondanks op die winkelrakke verskeidenheid besig om vinnig te verdwyn, soos wat mense dit opraap. Volgens die boek is die geskiedenis wat jy op skool geleer het nie 100% die waarheid nie. Die skrywer Patric Tariq Mellet was 'n freedom fighter en hy is ook 'n bekende erfenis-aktivis. En nou is hy my gas vanaand om oor sy boek te praat. Welcome in the KLOP studio. Patric, maybe we should just start with your name, because up until this moment I used to pronounce it as Patric Tariq Mellet.
It's Patric Tariq Mellet. I generally go by Tariq Mellet.
Okay. Where did your interest in history start?
Look, it goes way back to childhood. You know, I was born into, we were low-born people in poor family, single mother, I lived in the old part of Cape Town, District 6, Woodstock, Salt River, and what I saw happening to my family and what I saw happening to my area, you know, encouraged me to look at history. And then I met a nun in District 6 and saw us praying to this black saint, statue of a guy who had died 500 years ago. And she told me that his mother was a slave and that his father was Spanish. And she then told me about slavery and then how it related to us. I was 8 years old. And from there, that magnificent obsession began.
Just briefly maybe about your family roots.
Yeah, as I say, we were, firstly and foremostly, we were poor. We lived in what they call the grey districts of Cape Town, which really meant the most colourful districts of Cape Town.
Yeah.
We have, in our family, we had Indian, we had poor white, and we had coloured. But we didn't think of things like that. We were just family. But I grew up when apartheid was being introduced, race classification was being introduced. Our family had always, for 370 years,
Yeah.
been a family of mixed ethnic and cultural and ancestral heritage.
So you were classified as?
Well, this is what happened to me when I was 16. I went to Home Affairs, and of course, looking the way I look, and when I put coloured, they said, no, you cannot be, you know, and I had this argument with this woman, and she ended up putting other in the column, but then she said to me, but I know what your case is. You just don't want to go to the army. I said, of course I'm not going to an army, not my army. And so the Race Classification Board, the military authorities, all of this, it was hell. My 16 years to 18 years old was hell, because I was fighting to be who I was and to be who my family had been for 370 years. I mean, today in my family, we are Griqua, we are Nama, we are Xhosa, we are coloured, we are Indian, we are Chinese, we are Thai. We have, you know, it's still like this. It's always been like that.
Yeah. What in researching and writing your book was the one discovery that you would regard as beyond your wildest dreams?
Sure, there are many, but I think the period just prior to Jan van Riebeeck, that 50 years before Van Riebeeck, we had been given this idea that Van Riebeeck turns up here and it's the first time that local people are seeing Europeans.
Yeah.
And they struck in awe. We got that Charles Bell painting from the 1800s, you know, with the flag and the Van Riebeeck. And to discover that, in fact, two indigenous people, one had gone to London and back and one had gone to Java and back before Van Riebeeck, that the man he called a beach bum, a strandloper, in fact, always wore European clothes when he met the ships, that the English regarded him as the governor of the Cape. All of these things were amazing discoveries, that over 1,071 ships had come to Cape Town on the outward bound journey alone, never mind the 800 on the homeward bound. Over 120,000 Europeans had visited Table Bay before Van Riebeeck. That was an amazing thing.
And then amazing to me, or critically even, Patric, is that in your book you tell people like myself who've always identified as coloured, Koida, you are not coloured, you are what is called Kamisa Africans. We have less than a minute for this segment. Please elaborate on that.
You laboured with coloured. I laboured with other colours. People forget there were 7 subcategories. What I'm looking at is, who are we? Firstly and foremostly, we are Africans. We were de-Africanized. And even today, we are being de-Africanized. Secondly, what is Kamisa? Kamisa is a river that flows through Cape Town. It's not a race. It's not a color. It's not an ethnicity. It is the giver of life. Without water, human beings do not live. And it's from that community that lived around that Kamisa River, that first trading community of Khoi people, that I go back and I say, that river is our source. We are Africans, but we've got a very specific heritage and history of overcoming adversity. And as Kamisa Africans, that is our heritage, a people who have risen above adversity.
We're going to continue this discussion after the break. Ek en Patric gesels dan net hierna verder oor sy boek en daarna is dit Mosfees wat ook in die mix is.